Paddy Pimblett versus Luigi Vendramini takes place this weekend on the main card of UFC Fight Night Vegas 36, Brunson versus Till, and I can't wait to finally see the debut of Paddy Pimblett in the UFC. I've been waiting for this moment for a very, very long time. I'm extremely excited for this moment. I remember years ago, it must have been now, on Ariel Helwani's MMA show, he had Paddy Pimblett on the show, and I thought to myself back then, why is this random guy that I've never heard of on Ariel Helwani's MMA show? I thought this was for big-time fighters. I looked into Paddy Pimblett and who he was because, in all honesty, the name intrigued me. Paddy Pimblett, there's just something about that name that makes you want to learn more about him. It's just a great name, very, very marketable in my opinion. Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. Looked into him and I found out real soon why he was on the Ariel Helwani's MMA show back then, because I saw his flying triangle finish over Alexis Savidis. I know it was a little bit of an armbar as well, but it was basically a flying triangle finish, and the way he set it up was so perfect. He just dived onto the ground, rolled over from the triangle position, and ended up in a great finish in the first round for Paddy Pimblett. It went viral. Everyone paid attention to it. I think even more impressive, and I saw this comment on the recent video that they posted about Paddy Pimblett, was when he was celebrating, he climbs over the cage, climbs onto one of his coaches, gives his coach a hug, then climbs back onto the cage, over the cage, back into the cage, without touching the ground once. And I have no idea how he did it, but it was an amazing thing. And let's get past the celebration of the finish anyway. It was an amazing finish. It made me pay attention. Then he was supposed to take on Soren back and get himself into the UFC. This is the big moment. And then he loses against Soren back, but he did have a broken hand in that fight against Soren back, and he almost finished Soren back in the first round by rear naked choke. Ended up going for it a little bit too early and starting to gas out in the later rounds. But this is a tough debut for him against Luigi Vendramini, and I feel like I want to say this before we get into the rest of this video. I'm going to be hyping up Paddy Pimblett here because he's very, very exciting, very, very marketable, and he could be a next big name out of the UK. But Luigi Vendramini is a very dangerous test for him in his debut, in all honesty. And I feel as though maybe Paddy Pimblett's fame and popularity is kind of making people feel like he's a little bit more invincible than maybe he is, because he has lost a couple of fights now outside the UFC, and they're not to bad opponents, don't get me wrong. Like, Paddy Pimblett lost to Soren back. Soren back's a great opponent, now doing well in Bellator, and he's now in Bellator, and he's had some good wins in his career as well. Not a bad loss, plus he almost finished him in the first round with a rear naked, and he broke his hand, so he couldn't really get the finish in the rear naked, and he started not to do well as the fight went on. Either way, Nad Narimani also went on to become in the UFC and become a UFC fighter himself. Not a bad loss, but then again, Nad Narimani, you know what I'm saying? Nad Narimani, Mike Grundy beat Nad Narimani, so kind of puts into a little bit of perspective there. That's not a great loss to have on your record. Also lost to Cameron Else in the UFC, and he's in the UFC now, and he lost him in Cage Warriors, and that was ages ago in his career, I understand, but still, not really a great loss to have on your career, but they are guys that go on to become UFC fighters themselves, so they're not bad losses. He could have lost to some people that just didn't have anything for their career whatsoever and just randomly beat him whilst being an absolute tin can that was supposed to lose to Paddy Pimblett. Paddy Pimblett has fought some decent opponents throughout his career, but he is somewhat beatable. Okay, I thought he beat Julian Erosa. I don't know why people think that was a robbery. I think it's an American thing. I think they just wanted Julian Erosa to win and stop the hype train. I thought he beat Julian Erosa, but that was a very, very close fight. And you know what? Back then, when that fight was happening in 2016, I feel like it was a correct decision to give it to Paddy Pimblett. But if you're going to score fights nowadays, I don't know if that's the correct decision anymore. He has lost some fights in his career and has had some fights where maybe he doesn't seem as amazing and invincible as he always seems nowadays in his last two fights against Decky Dalton and David Martinez. But those guys were a little bit smaller than him. Not the best opponents anyway. Not crazily good skill level wise. But either way, he made them look really bad and finished them both in the first round with relative ease. He is a massive, massive lightweight, I also want to add. I thought he was taking on featherweights, but no, these guys that he's taking on are actual lightweights. They're just way smaller than him because he's a massive guy for the division, I guess. But this is a tough test, man. Luigi Vendramini. I think the size difference is going to be quite something, and I think that's going to lead Paddy Pimblett to get the win here. But Luigi Vendramini's dangerous, man. Let's talk about him for a second. Young guy, 25 years of age, extremely explosive, got KO power in the first round, had an amazing head kick KO into a combination finish against Jesse Ayari in his second UFC fight. He's had 2 losses in his career, one to Faresiam recently by majority decision, where he arguably could have got a 10-8 in the third round, which would have made it a draw. Then he lost to Eliezer Zaleski dos Santos. That's a more reasonable loss to me than like Nad Narimani and Cameron Else's. I will say that, because Eliseu Zaleski dos Santos is a welterweight, and at the time, 2018, he was destroying everyone in the welterweight division on a massive win streak. I thought he beat Muslim Salikov as well, and I thought he got robbed there. And Muslim Salikov's now top 15 in the UFC welterweight division. Eliseu Zaleski dos Santos is not a bad guy to lose to. And he got flying kneed and finished afterwards in the second round. He took the fight on short notice. It's his only way that he got into the UFC in the first place. He wouldn't have been given a contract otherwise if it wasn't to fill in on short notice against Eliseu Zaleski. I just feel like he's a little bit not quite on that level to beat Paddy Pimblett. But I will say this. There are some guys in the UFC that will look at Paddy Pimblett and think to themselves, you know what? Somewhat beatable. I don't want people to be thinking that Paddy Pimblett is going to join the UFC, run through all the competition, and immediately get to the rankings, then the top 10, then the top 5, then to the belt. Like, we've still got to see how he does in these next few fights. And I think people just need to get a hold of themselves and really just... This is MMA, you know what I mean? You never know. He could lose this one this weekend. It's Luigi Vendramini. He's dangerous in the first round. However, I am going to be picking Paddy Pimblett to win. Let's get into my prediction of the fight and how I think it's going to go. I think Paddy Pimblett's going to go out there and get the job done. His boxing is not the best. I think that's his weak spot in his game, Paddy Pimblett. And he does have a broken hand, and he has broke his hand a couple of times in his career before, or at least one time in his career, but it was bothering him for a very long time, so he had to take a very long time out of the game to heal up and get it a little bit better and back to how it was. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe his boxing was just temporarily a little bit worse because he hadn't been training it for a while and had to sort of work around that. But his ground game is his bread and butter. He goes out there, he's explosive on the feet, he throws a lot of high kicks, a lot of question mark kicks, some side kicks as well. He'll throw some unorthodox techniques on the feet, make you a little bit aggressive and want to land back on him, and then when you do, he'll catch you in the clinch, go for a hip toss, get you on the ground, and then start pounding you out from mount until you eventually give up your back, and then he'll slide in a rear naked choke, and that's Paddy Pimblett's MO really, and I think that's exactly what he's going to do against Luigi Vendramini. I can see the explosive early Vendramini being a little bit frustrated if Paddy Pimblett's staying at range, being the longer guy that he is, landing some good kicks from range, landing a couple of jabs maybe here and there, just to throw some stuff out there on Luigi Vendramini. I think the mass and the presence in the octagon of Paddy Pimblett is going to make Luigi Vendramini back up against the cage. I think he's going to come rushing forward at one moment to try and land a big bomb on Paddy Pimblett and try and put him away. That's when they're going to meet in the clinch, and I think if he meets in the clinch with Paddy Pimblett, he's going to notice the size difference immediately, and Pimblett's going to trip him, hip toss him, put him on the ground, whatever way he wants to, and I think then he'll do a lot of work to Luigi Vendramini on the ground in this fight. But Vendramini's very good. But how good is Fares Yam? That's what I'm really basing this fight on, to be honest with you, because I thought Luigi Vendramini was a very good prospect to look out for. He hasn't fought great opponents, but it was just the way he was beating them was just extremely impressively. Like, although he's fighting cans, he's making them all look like cans because he's just destroying all of them by finish in near enough every single fight that he's had. After the Fares Yam fight, I saw a guy in Fares Yam that's not even that good himself, but just technical and defensively aware enough to move out the way, to jab, to stay at range, to control range a little bit against Luigi Vendramini. And you saw in Vendramini, he had so much trouble landing shots in those early 2 rounds, and had a lot of trouble as well just doing what he usually does. He had trouble getting aggressive because he wasn't really being able to close the distance as well, because Yam would keep range, move his feet, move away whenever Vendramini came in. I think Pimblett can do the same thing. He's at that level that Fares Yam is fundamentally, and I think that's going to lead Luigi Vendramini into his clinch, into a hip toss, into a mount, into a rear naked choke. I just see it happening that way in this fight, but it's a very close one. Luigi could catch him on the chin here. I know Paddy Pimblett says, Scousers don't get knocked out. I just spat everywhere there. Please don't tell me that was on video. What is that in my fucking mouth? I swear, yeah, spinach just fucking... I think I grow spinach in my fucking gums or something. It's actually pissing me off. Scousers don't get knocked out. That's what he said. And then after that, Darren Till main evented in UFC London against Jorge Masvidal. Now, call it a coincidence. Maybe God's just trying to let those Scousers know just where they really are in comparison to the almighty one. You don't start acting like there's 100% chances of anything here. Pimblett says Scousers don't get knocked out. Darren Till gets Masvidal in London, like almost immediately after he said that, which is okay. I feel like Maybe his chin is up in the air a little bit at times. I know he's sitting there probably watching this right now thinking, this guy don't fucking know nothing about fighting, mate. I understand I don't know nothing about fighting compared to you. But God, that chin is up sometimes, man. And Vendramini's quick and he's powerful. And if he can land it, he can land it. And it might be all over. I don't care Scouser or not. Everyone's chin is a chin. But either way, I think Pimblett gets this one done. I'm just worried because everyone's acting like it's a foregone conclusion. And it's dangerous because this is the UFC 155-pound division we're talking about here. The bottom-ranked guys are like Mason Jones is a bottom-ranked guy. He's very good. He could go on to be something. All of the guys at the bottom aren't really that bad compared to like being at the bottom of the middleweight division. If you're at the bottom of the middleweight division, like, I'm pretty sure you can apply for like a free bus pass or something because you're literally an OAP. You might as well not even be in the UFC. There's no chance for you whatsoever. Being at the bottom of the middleweight division, you're just absolute scum of the earth. Like trash. No idea what you're doing. But at the bottom of the lightweight division, it's a different story, man. Anyone can beat anyone. I think if Paddy Pimblett wins this one this weekend, which I assume he will, we're looking at names like Mike Davis. Maybe, I mean, they haven't cut Michael Johnson yet. Maybe they do that one next. Try and give Paddy Pimblett a bit of a name value guy. Damir Hadzovic as well is another option. Maybe there's a Europe card, of course. Damir Hadzovic being from Bosnia. Maybe we could do a bit of a European card. Paddy Pimblett, Damir Hadzovic on the main card opener, maybe on that card somewhere. There's other good names in this division, though. There's other decent names. Ignacio Bahamondes. Maybe if Pimblett gets a quick finish here by rear naked choke in the first round, takes no damage whatsoever, wants to turn immediately around before the end of the year, maybe we could do Ignacio Bahamondes versus Paddy Pimblett. That would be a very hyped up prospect matchup. You've got Ignacio Bahamondes will kick KO against Roosevelt Roberts in his last fight. Paddy Pimblett will just have got a big finish over Luigi Vendramini. I'm just worried because a lot has been made of him, but I've watched some fights, and if he doesn't get it his way in the first 2 rounds, it gets interesting. But then again, he's been scheduled for 5-round fights. So that's a bit of a different situation. I actually kind of like that he's been scheduled for 5-round fights as well, because being that big of a name value guy on the regional scene, not many people get the opportunity to go 5 rounds and really learn what fatigue in the octagon is. Usually guys go 3 rounds, then they get their first 5-rounder in the UFC and you see them gas out in rounds 4 and 5. Paddy Pimblett's been in a 5-rounder. He has slowed down in those 5-rounders and shown signs of exhaustion, but I'd rather him learn that on the regional scene, because now 3 rounds is not going to seem like really anything to him, and I don't think it will seem like much to him this weekend. I think he'll get the job done by submission in the first round rear naked choke, but we'll see how it goes. Instagram, they deactivated his account. It has 100,000 followers. Well, I don't know why they deactivated it. I still have no idea why. I think they should definitely open that one back up, because otherwise that's a lot of name value down the drain. But apparently he's going to call out Instagram if he wins this weekend, which would be amazing. I want to see him take some time, though, because he's a young guy, 26 years of age. He's 27 in January. We can get 2 fights in. Before then, including the one this weekend, if it goes quickly without much damage, I guess. And we'll see how it goes. I just don't want him to be rushed because of his name value, because there are some weaknesses that he's going to get better at, but the chin is up sometimes in these exchanges, and he moves his feet backwards, and he keeps good range, and he does some good kicks. But I'm getting like Rockhold vibes, but we'll see how it goes. I guess it's, at least it's not Yoel Romero throwing punches at you, you know what I'm saying? It's Luigi Vendramini, but it's risky. I'm worried. I think this is a lot closer of a fight than people actually assume, and that the odds assume, and that the Tapology prediction rate assumes as well. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.